Welcome back, everybody, to another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates podcast. We're joined here today by former Browns running back and NFL legend, Mr. Eric Metcalf. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Not too bad, man. Just running around. It's been nice here in Cleveland with the weather here finally. I think the snow's gone. Cross our fingers. I've never heard of June snow, but you never know. Wow. You dealt with all that Cleveland weather for many years. We'll get into some of that too, for sure.
Sure.
All right. Now, I read on the internet, it says you were born in Seattle in 1968. Is that part correct?
That is exact. That is correct. Yes, I was.
Outstanding. Now, your father is NFL legend Terry Metcalf. Now, he was what was the living situation like when you guys were, because he went to Long Beach State. So yeah. Did you guys move down with them to go to college, or what happened with that?
So how it went down, my mother and father had me when they were in high school. And so when my dad was in Long Beach State, I was here in Seattle with my mother. And so he finished school. Obviously, he got drafted and he was in St. Louis, but I still lived here in Seattle with my mother. And I didn't start living with my dad until my second year of high school. When he was finished with the Redskins, I moved to Virginia.
Oh, okay. So you didn't ever end up going to Canada, or you didn't go to any of those spots? You just stayed in Seattle until his career was done?
Yeah, I never lived in those spots. I just visited.
Oh, okay. What any memories of Canada back when he was playing for the Argonauts?
Oh yeah, for sure. I used to go there in the summers, like because they obviously start football earlier than the NFL does. So I used to go there in the summers and pretty much go through training camp with them just as they did. I had my own locker. I had a uniform, pads, helmet, and everything. And I would go out there and practice and do all the drills with the receivers and those guys until they got into real practice.
Oh, nice. So you're about, what, 10, 11, 12 doing that with all these pros? Okay.
Exactly.
Nice. So did that start you on a pedigree towards, you knew you were going to be an athlete at what, at what point were you coming up in Seattle, or when you moved to Virginia, did you start getting into track and football, stuff like that?
Well, to be honest, I knew I was going to be a pro football player when I was 7 years old.
Nice.
I mean, I'm just being real about it. When I started Little League football, the first day of sign up at 7 years old, my mother took me to sign up for football, and she told me, now you have to lie about your age. You're 8. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go down there and I tell them I'm 8 years old. They sign me up and I start playing. Unfortunately, then when it's really time to play, they ask for birth certificates. So I have to bring my birth certificate, and I started playing, and I actually scored. I actually played in a game and scored 10 touchdowns in the game.
10 touchdowns in one game. Now, how fast? So you're 7 years old playing against 8-year-olds, and you scored 10 touchdowns in one game?
And they actually called 3 back. But yeah, at that I was faster than everybody at that time. I was smaller, but I was faster, and so it was fun. So like I said, at that time, I knew that I wanted to be a pro football player. I knew my dad was playing. I was like, this is who I'm going to be, and I started copying his signature. And nice. my childhood friend always talks about, man, you remember when we were young and you used to copy your dad's signature, you used to sign everything and say, I said, yeah, because I knew what was going to happen.
Now, was this a flag football, or was this touch football or tackle, or what kind of football was it?
Tackle football. It was tackle football.
7 and 8 years old, they had you guys in pads? Wow.
I've never played flag football in my life. So yeah, I was just trying to, yeah. I knew back then, and I actually started running track at the same time, and so when I was running track, they always put me with the older group because it wasn't fair with my age.
Okay, so you were in college. So you said you went to Virginia when you were after your dad got out of he ended up with the Redskins this last year, I think 81, something like that.
Yeah, so I went to Virginia. I went high school 1 year here in Seattle, and then I had an issue with the high school, and so so I went to Virginia, and it's a minor issue, but it's a big issue to me. When I was a freshman in high school, they wouldn't let me play varsity football, and so I told them, if you don't let me play varsity as a freshman, I will not be here next year, and so they wouldn't let me, and I was purely convinced that I was going to be able to talk to him and let me play. Because at the time, I'm only 13 years old. So I played my entire freshman football season at 13 years old. And so they didn't let me play. And so I ended up playing 5 football games as a freshman against 3 different teams.
Wow.
Which was, that's boring. And because of my age, I could have stayed with my friends and played Little League football and played 10, 11 games and won another Little League championship and had lots of fun. But I felt like they took me away from that and kept me from enjoying that football season. So I'm like, I'm out of here. I wanted to play college football in the South anyway, and I figured if I was in Virginia, I'd have a greater chance as opposed to being in Seattle.
Okay, so when you get to school out in Virginia, what you play football, obviously. What other sports you got going on in high school?
Oh, track for sure.
Okay.
I wanted to play basketball, but I did indoor track, which is big on the East Coast. I did indoor track, and then the basketball coach said if there was ever a conflict, he wanted me to come to the basketball game, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to these track meets, especially when you're talking about traveling around, going to different states and competing against the best people in the country, as opposed to playing for our basketball team that wasn't very good.
So you get out there to Virginia. Did you know when you were coming into that high school that you're going to start right away, or did you have to compete, or how was the competitiveness of that high school?
I think that's funny because I especially at that age, there was no way I was going to think anyone's going to start over me. and so that's what So I got there, and I'm a sophomore, and once again, I'm only 14 years old when I get there, and I'm a sophomore. But at the same time, I have confidence in my ability that when I step on that field, I'm gonna start. I'm better than the majority of the team, and I started out, and I started immediately my sophomore year, but I broke my thumb, so I only got to play like 4 games, and so that wasn't much fun. But I was starting and looking forward to my junior year after that.
Okay, did you like football better than track, or what was your favorite out of the two in high school?
Football? It's football, no question. To me, there's nothing greater than football. I don't care what sport is on. It is football, hands down. And so that's just what I always wanted to do, and just track was something to keep me from going to spring ball and other things. I just happened to be good at it.
So you just want the track to get out of weightlifting in the spring, is what you're telling me then?
Oh, for sure.
I feel it. I hated weightlifting. I hated weightlifting during football.
I mean, think about it. When you're talking about spring football, and especially if you're a starter, only thing that can happen to you is bad.
Right,
and that's getting hurt. I mean, if you don't have new coaches, the offense is the same, your position and is pretty much solidified. Only thing that can happen is you getting hurt. And so why take that chance if you can go to another sport and be successful?
Right, especially track. I mean, there's no contact in it. It's not like you're running up against people and checking them in the box like hockey or something like that. So you're good there.
Right. And then when you talk about football and track, especially in these days, a lot of teams don't let their guys run track, right? But they want everybody to be fast.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes no sense to me. If you want these guys to be fast, then let them run track, right?
Exactly.
As soon as they're done with the collegiate football, their collegiate careers, what does everybody do? Work on the 40. Everybody tries to get faster. So if you've been doing that your entire college career, you've been just fine.
You're already ready to go. Now, at what age were you first able to beat your dad in a foot race?
I don't know, because I've never raced my dad.
No way. Okay.
I raced my mom back when I was 10, and she embarrassed me, and I was mad. She actually gave me a head start, and as soon as she got next to me and took one step past me, I quit. I was like,
nice. Who do you think would if your dad and you were to race right now, who do you think would win?
Oh, me for sure.
Oh, nice. Smokey, I like it.
I mean, to be honest, at us at the same age, probably for our entire lives, I would beat him in a race.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm faster.
You were a speedster, brother. You were a fast son of a bitch. All right, now when you were in high school, at what age or when did the colleges start visiting you, or did you kind of already set up? How did they work that back then?
Really and true, I started getting some letters my sophomore year, which was pretty good considering I only played 4 games. But then when my junior year started, I guess started getting letters from everyone, and so and that was in track and football.
Okay.
Because a lot of teams, a lot of schools were recruiting me, but I would get letters from both programs, and because I think a lot of them felt if we had good programs in both, they'd have a chance of me going there.
Right. And so you were definitely settled on the South. Was there any schools besides Texas you took official visits to?
Well, my official visits were Texas, Miami, Georgia, Nebraska, and Notre Dame.
Okay, all solid programs back then for sure.
I actually committed to the U. And at 17 years old, I went on my recruiting trip, and I was committed 2 hours into the recruiting trip. I'm like, hey, I need to be here down in Coral Gables. I need to be in Florida. This is where I need to be, but my parents weren't having it. They're like,
okay.
I would have been on the U. Just 17 years old. They're like, nah, that's not for him. They really wanted me to go to Notre Dame because I went to Catholic school my entire life. Texas was the first public school that I ever been to.
Okay, I was the same way. I didn't go to until I went to Kent in college. I didn't go to. I was Catholic school all throughout grade school and high school. Yeah,
Yes, I'm the same.
All right, so when I've heard people say that as soon as they hit Miami and they just see how it's like 80 degrees and all the women are dressed, they're like, yep, I'm going here. I don't need to see anything else. That's a check. Boom.
Especially at 17 years old. This is like Disney World.
All right, so you get down to Texas, and I wasn't really a college football guy. I followed casually back in the 80s, but so I had to look up some of your stats and all that. And I read that it was your junior year, maybe you had 1,000 yards receiving and rushing in the same season. Were they just using you all? And that was only in 11 games. I mean, did this basically give the ball to you and everything? I mean, what was going on with that?
I didn't have 1,000 yards receiving.
Okay.
But they were giving me the ball all over the place. I mean, to be honest, and I hate to say it because I know it's no slight on my teammates, but we weren't very good. During my 4 years there, I only won 24 games, and so the chances were if you gave me the ball, we had a better chance of winning. We still didn't win that many games, but we had a greater chance of winning. So it was fun down there. And if in hindsight, if I had to do it all over again, I'd pick the University of Texas again.
Okay. A lot of good running backs come out of Texas. I talked to Ricky Williams a while back too, as well. A great program up there. Now, when you were also there, did you do track in college too, as well? Right? I'm assuming is correct.
Oh, you're assuming correct. Yes, I was a 2-time national champion in the long jump.
Ooh, nice.
I actually, in my mind, I was a 3-time champion. In my sophomore year, I finished 3rd, but I was putting on my clothes in the lead when 2 guys passed me on their last jump, and so I didn't have any more jumps to try to win. But I was so to me when I stopped, I was winning, and so to me, so yeah, that's my track career. And then my senior year, I didn't compete because my goal going into it was to win 4 straight national championships, and because I didn't win my sophomore year. I didn't do it, so I figured I might as well just go ahead and get ready for the draft.
Okay. Now, I read that you tried out. Let me ask you what your favorite track and field sport was. Like out of all the events, what was your favorite to do?
Well, from my favorite to do was long jump. My favorite to watch is the 400 meters.
Okay, the Jeremy Warner type medium distance event. I like it. I love the. I know a lot of people don't like the short distance events, but the 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meters, those are great events. Just because you can see the different speeds and the different types of runners in all the events. Like people will train for the 100 meter dash, but like sometimes those guys couldn't do the 400 meters because their burst is just for that first initial spot, and by the time they get it, they get winded. You know what I mean?
Especially when you're talking about a high level. The higher the level gets, and you're talking about running 100 and 200 meters, those guys are doing something extraordinary. I mean, how many people can say they run under 10 seconds in 100? And there And these guys go out there and run 9.6, 9.7s and things like that. And so that's crazy.
So did you tried out for the Olympics? Did you?
I was at the Olympic trials in 1988, which would have been going into my senior year, and I finished eighth. I actually got hurt in the trials in the finals, but in my mind it didn't really matter because I was going into my senior year of football, and I had told people if I made the team, there's no way I was going to the Olympics anyway, because I'm trying to play football. I'm trying to win the Heisman, all that kind of stuff, which I did, which I got suspended my senior year. And Barry Sanders had a phenomenal year, so I wouldn't have won it anyway. But you can give me a chance at the Heisman over the Olympics any day. Growing up, I want to play football. That's who I am. I'm a football player, and track it was fun to me, and I love it. But NFL over Olympics, excuse me, not even close.
Oh yeah. Now, did you when you're down at the Olympic trials, did you run into all the guys, Carl Lewis and all the people who won the medals and all that? Or was it just kind of a?
Well, yeah, I compete against Carl, and I talk to him all the time still. At track meets and things like that. But it's exciting. You had these at the Olympic trials. I have a funny story because one of my best friends who works at Nike and everything, he was a long jumper as well, and we were all at the trials, and he had Carl competing against Carl Lewis, Mike Powell was the world record holder, Mike Conley, Larry Myrick, all these guys that have all different kind of medals, and Carl did something phenomenal in the finals in the pouring down rain, jumped 28 feet, and I remember standing under the tent and looking at all the guys and said, "Thank goodness for football." You guys can deal with this. I don't have to deal with this. And so that was that was a fun time. My friend always talks about how I said that, and he was like, "Man, I was like, I have something else to do. This is for fun for me, guys. This is your career. You got to deal with that."
What is that? Is it Powell that's still the record holder for the jump? I know it was Bob Beamon way back when, and then
Mike Powell, 29 and 4 and some change.
You think anybody will ever break 30 feet in a long jump, or is that just too hard?
I think someone could. I think it's guys of old who would have had a better chance, because back then, it's so sport specific now that people these days, they're either a jumper or a sprinter. And when back in the day, it was your fastest guy was usually your long jumper, and that's why they were able to get out there, because you got these guys like Carl Lewis and these who can run down the runway fast and they're long and transfer that speed into a jump. And so but no one does that anymore. And so I think that's what makes it hard. And so now you don't see people jumping like you used to back in the day.
And the event just doesn't really, the 100-meter dash is the gold standard. That's what everybody wants to do. So the people probably train for that. I can't imagine there's many long jumping schools. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but if there's a long snapping school, there's a long jumping school, I guess.
Right, for sure. For
sure. long Snappers Academy. All right, the 1989 draft, man, I was looking back at this before doing some research on the show. Man, it was one of the most stacked drafts I've ever seen in my life. You start out, you got 3 Hall of Famers right off the rip: Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, Troy Aikman, then Deion Sanders even. Did you have any idea you were going to be drafted by the Browns at that time, or where did you think you were going to pop in the draft?
In that class, there are 5 Hall of Famers now, right?
Oh, that's right. There was was it Rising? Is Rising a Hall of Fame?
So it's Prime.
Atwater was in that draft too. Okay.
Atwater, Prime, Derek, Aikman, and Barry. Yeah.
That's a great class, man.
And there should be more. I'm just gonna say it. But
we'll get into that a little bit later. But so, did the Browns contact you? Did you work out for the Browns? Like what?
So what happened was, actually, Mike Lombardi, who was working at the Browns at the time, he told me my freshman year when he was working with the 49ers. He said, "When your time comes, I'm gonna draft you." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, whatever," because I was just standing out there at pro day, but I wasn't doing anything, because I was in track. And so fast forward, come right a few days before the draft, he flies down to Austin, and he asked me to do a quick little workout, do some drills and everything, and I would not do it. He was like, "Oh, come on, I need you to do this. We don't have you on we don't have you on film or on the clock doing this, and we're talking about drafting you. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And for a number of reasons. I had just finished playing basketball for hours with my buddies. And then the most important reason was, if I go out here and I do this test and I don't run as fast as you think I should, then what happens? You know, I'm already a small guy, and then I don't go as fast as you think I should go. I'm only hurting myself. I said, so no, I'm not doing this. And then fast forward again to draft day, and we're sitting there. I'm sitting there here in Seattle with my family, and I hear that the Denver Broncos trade the 13th pick to the Cleveland Browns. And I looked at my mom and said, I'm about to get drafted. And she's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I'm about to get drafted. And so something in my mind told me that they were still going to draft me. But I think it had to do with if the Browns don't trade for that pick, I think I would have gone to New York with the 14th pick to the Jets.
Okay.
And so when I heard that, I was like, I'm getting drafted, and it happened. And and then Art and those guys called me, and I was looking forward to it. And the first thing I told them, I said, I have to wear number 21. That was what I was. The number I would want to wear was really number 2, but I was like, I have to wear 21 because my dad and everything, and then it was a love affair. Well, later it was a love affair when I got there in the fall, but when I got there in the spring for minicamp right after the draft, it was snowing in May, and I was sitting out there, and I was like, this is not going to work. I'm coming from Austin, Texas, 80 degrees every day, and I'm playing on AstroTurf. Now it's snowing in May, and we're going to be playing on dirt. And I'm like, oh, this probably isn't going to work. But when I finally came in the fall after my holdout, I fell in love with it.
That's all. Yeah, I look back, and the trade was the Browns gave up their pick in the first, and they also gave a second, a fifth, and a 9th round pick. Remember when the draft had 9 rounds? That's crazy. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I didn't realize until what was it last year during the pandemic when they re-aired the 1989 draft. I didn't realize or remember until that moment when I watched it with my kids, who obviously had never seen it,
All right.
That they had gave up so many picks for that trade. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, oh, they traded and I'm going to Cleveland. But I didn't realize until like last year that it was that many picks. I was like, oh, they really wanted me, I guess.
Oh, they were coming in hard. It was fun. It's hilarious watching the draft because it's 89. Yeah, that's over 30 years ago. I think 32 years ago. And you get the same faces you remember from now. I mean, Boomer was on there. It's Tom Jackson. I mean, it's like watching a retro time machine. They'd never changed the faces in the NFL. That was hilarious, man. Now, did you were? I actually just asked you, were you shocked or expected to go? You expected Cleveland to trade you when you first got or heard that they're trading up? You're like, that's where I'm going. Boom, I'm going to Cleveland. So when you get to your first ever preseason game, did you make the trip to London to go to the UK?
I didn't.
You did?
I was holding out.
Oh, you held out. Okay, I was trying to find that information out before I did the interview, and I could not find a box score for the game to save my ass. I couldn't find anything about what your contract situation was back then. So you held out, huh?
I held out. I played in one preseason game, and
okay.
that was against the Cardinals. And so I was holding out and trying to be in shape.
At least you stayed in shape and you brought it. Now, what was the energy like coming into that rookie year? I mean, you had an established team. You got Bernie. You guys are pretty much locked for the playoffs at that point, right?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because when I first got there, like for minicamp and everything, there were 2 people who are probably my closest dudes who I talk to the most right now on the team is Reggie Langhorne and Kevin Mack. And those guys say how when I first got there that they didn't like me. and they always say because I thought I was too cool. And like, look at him, he's a first round pick, he's too cool, come from the University of Texas, he think we're supposed to just and I was like, no, it's not, it wasn't that. I was just, I expected to be here. And so which is funny because like I said, these guys are 2 guys I probably talk to more than anyone from that team. And then when I finally actually got to camp after my holdout, I always talk to Bernie about my first play in a practice, and it was I was a running back, but in this particular play, they split the running back out to receiver, and he audibled the first play, and I had no idea what was going on, and he threw the ball and hit me. And then I turned and looked, and he just started laughing. And I was like, I guess that's part of the deal. But once we got into the real game and started playing, yeah, it was all a piece of cake and fun. It was good to be on that team with those guys.
What were your first thoughts walking out there, seeing that awesome monolith we called Cleveland Stadium back in the day?
Well, when I first got there, I was like, oh, I'm coming from Austin, Texas, where football is big, and I'm looking in the stadium. First, I'm looking at the baseball field in the middle of the stadium, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. What is this? But it's not about it wasn't about the stadium for me. It was about the people in the stadium, the fans, and so that's what made the old Cleveland Stadium great to me. Because when I talk about it, even today, I get more excited about the old stadium as opposed to the new stadium, because I felt like the atmosphere of the old stadium defined what Cleveland was all about, and why I love being there with the fans and all that so much.
It was such a lot of people remember watching this will probably remember the old stadium, but it was so different just in terms of vibe. Like it was there was a hostile place to play. Like other teams would go there. I remember one game I watched, there was so much violence on the one side of the stadium. They would actually switch the drive each play. Like the Browns would, you go down towards one end, and then they would just, normally you go back towards the other end, but they would just switch around, and because every play would go into the end because the dog pound was so hostile towards the other fans.
Yeah, they did that my rookie year. We were playing Denver, and they were backed up to the dog pound. They were throwing batteries and everything, so they switched the ends. And going back to your point about the hostile environment, that was real dog pound. The people, that was the real dog pound. Now it's the dog pound per se, but it's corporate.
It's so cool. Well, it's like they don't let you cheer, man. I mean, this is a rant of mine, but like, I go there, if I say fuck or I cheer or something, they'll go, I'm like, it's a football game, man. Come on, these guys are out there running into each other in pads. I want to create a hostile environment. I want the opposing fans, when they come to Brown Stadium, to feel not welcome for a little bit. Feel a little bit on edge. I'm not going to be a total dick to them, but I mean, we got to make, this is our house, represent, And the Brown security, when they started with Lou Marletti in '89, or '99 when they first came back, it set a bad precedent, and it was never going to be the same as it was. I mean, that's pretty much probably everywhere. But I mean, that 80s dog pound, 90s dog pound had such an awesome vibe. You could just, it was so awesome, man. It really was.
It was. And, and still, the fans are still the same. I mean, obviously you can't act as crazy as you did back in the day, but the fans are what are important. When you go out there, especially for a home team, that's what home field advantage is all about, right? You have your fans being as ruckus as they can be and acting a fool, and players feed off that. And I think, and I expect that it'll be as close to that as possible this year, especially after all the expectations, especially with what the team accomplished last year. And so it'll be fun once they get people in there again and just go in there and act crazy.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's gonna be ridiculous. I'm a season ticket holder, and there's this Browns group I'm in on Facebook, the Browns Brothers. Shout out to the Browns Buzz. But they, we're talking about ticket prices. Yeah, it's. I mean, you can't get on the secondary market. It's $200-$300 for a seat in the upper bowl now. I mean, it's 2-3 years ago, I would just walk down the street and say, "Hey, who has an extra ticket?" And 5 people just come up to me. They're just giving away for free. I mean, it was a total opposite. So if you're watching the Browns this year and you didn't, get in early, be prepared to either not see them or go on the road or pay out your ass. I mean, it's gonna
lots of cash. You're gonna have to be paying shit. That's for sure.
Now, Marty was still coaching the Browns when you were a rookie, right?
No, so he actually left the year I got there.
Okay.
So Bud Carson.
Okay.
Bud Carson was my coach rookie year, and into the second year before he got fired.
Oh, that's right. That was that 3. Okay, so you were drafted in '89 and 30. Was your first year the 3-19 year, or was it the Buffalo playoff year?
Buffalo playoff year.
Okay.
Come on, let's go to touchdown in that game.
That's right. That was actually my next question. So your rookie year, Browns in the playoffs. The Bills are pulling up 21-24. They're hungry, man. And then the kickoff happens, and what happens? You tell us what happened. You take that motherfucker to the house, right? How
to
was
the
that, man?
house. See, and I tell people, like, I'm like, you watch that kickoff, I'm running through there and no one touches me. But a lot of people don't know I was on a fractured foot.
Oh, you were hurt that game. They did say in the thing that Eric Metcalf might not even have played this game and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
because I actually fractured it in the Houston game, the last regular season game that clinched us in the playoffs and everything, and the division title. And so I hurt it in that game. So I only played in that Houston game. I only played in the first half, and then we had the bye week, and I didn't practice much because of my foot, obviously. And then they got me an orthotic. My shoe was probably 4 times too big because all the stuff they had on my foot and the orthotic and everything. But yeah, but I ended up playing the whole game.
Now, do you think the NFL should move the ball back to like the 25 or 30 and bring back the kick return?
Well, it's hard. I get that the safety and everything, but when we're talking about a football standpoint, it's the excitement and momentum
Oh yeah,
that they're taking away from the game. I mean, as a returner, I look at it from the return side. I don't really care about the guys covering, but as a returner, when you're back there as a kick returner, you're thinking about when you get to kick, when you get to return a kick. It's when either at the beginning of the game, the beginning of the half, or a team scored. So at that moment, as a returner, you have the opportunity, your return team has the opportunity to switch momentum or just turn on momentum, or gain momentum. And that's what they're taking away from the game. To start the game, you return a kick to the house, the opening kickoff, you have momentum.
That's a precedent, exactly. If somebody comes in with say there's an 85-yard touchdown pass or whatever, and that team's hype and they're thinking they can do whatever. Somebody like Eric Metcalf comes in, returns the ensuing kickoff 102 yards, okay, there goes that deflated balloon. You know what I mean? So that's why I always love the kick return. I played in high school. I played a lot of special teams. I wasn't really the best in the world, but I just love the special teams aspect. You get guys out there, a Cribbs, a Steve Tasker, just go out there and just kill it, and you shine, and it's just such a great, exciting play. I mean, you could have the most mundane plays in the world, but you could have the most exciting play right after that. That's what I love about the kick return. I really wish they would bring it back, man. I really do.
That's what special teams is all about. I mean, it's like I said, it's all about momentum. If as a punt returner, it's the same thing. If you go back there as a punt returner, you have just stopped them. Your defense has just stopped them, so they have to give you the ball. And if you're able to take the ball back and return one for a touchdown, look how the game just changes.
Now, did you like returning better, or did you like playing on kickoffs or wide receiver and running back better?
I like the ball.
You just want the ball all the time.
I just want the ball. And so, and I credit Bill Belichick with making me a punt returner, because going into the NFL, I didn't want to return punts. I did it in college and did it all my life, obviously, but I didn't want to return punts because I felt like, in the pros, the ball's going to be up there for 4-point-something seconds, and these guys are going to be running down there fast and try to take my head off. And so I didn't really want to do it. I just wanted to return kicks. And when I first got there, we had Gerald McNeil also. So he was returning punts and I was returning kicks. And so when Bill got there, he was like, I want you to return punts and kicks and obviously play offense, because this gives you more chances to get the ball. And because obviously I'm not a 25 carry guy. I'm not going to be running between the tackles 25 times a game and playing smash mouth football. So he figured if I returned 5 kicks or 5 punts, caught 5 passes and ran the ball maybe 10 times, there's my 20, and I should be able to do something with that. And it worked out. I still wish I would have had the ball more or be put in better situations to make plays, but it was fun. Today, Bill would love me.
Oh yeah. You're Swiss Army. I feel like,
but today he would love me because the way the football is played now.
Oh, I know this is a weird comparison, but if I was to compare somebody to you today, I would say like a Christian McCaffrey is a beautiful example of how you used to play. I mean, you put out there in any situation, you can catch the ball in the slot, you can run out the middle outfield, whatever you would do, you're there and you just get the ball and you score. Speed and you score. It's perfect.
And you say that I like Christian McCaffrey. It's him, guys like him. Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, even though he's a different kind of guy, but he still does he catches the ball a lot and still runs. But it's those guys that can do more things that I really gravitate to, because in this day and age, the way football is played, they don't really have to come off the field. They can play every down because they're no longer considered third down backs, and that's why I think today's game would have been perfect for me. And dang, I would probably make the same $64 million as Christian McCaffrey, right?
Actually, that's a good segue in the next question. So after your rookie year, the Browns draft Leroy Horde, and then a year or two later, they draft Tommy Vardell. That's like 3 running backs in 4 years. When they brought Horde in, how did that make you feel? Were you like, okay, whatever, I'm a different position kind of thing? Or were you like, okay, too many guys in the locker room? What happened there?
Whenever they drafted those guys, I never thought it was about me. I mean, I thought, of course, you're playing in the AFC Central at the time, which is smash mouth football. There's going to be cold games in Pittsburgh and in Cincinnati and obviously in Cleveland. So I didn't think it was about me, because we needed big guys who could run in between the tackles, and that's the way the game was played. And so when I thought of it myself, I'm like, they can keep drafting guys. None of them can do what I can do.
Right.
I mean, I might not be able to run up in between tackles 25 times, but I can do it from time to time. But they can't go out there and split and play receiver. They can't run. They can't run sweeps like me or anything like that. They can't return punts and kickouts like me. So I wasn't ever really worried about that. It was a matter of just guys coming in, fitting in where you fit in, and going out there and playing. Unfortunately, when they brought Leroy in, that was cool. And then they brought Tommy in, but that meant someone had to go. And so K-Mac wasn't really getting those opportunities, and K-Mac was a great football player. And so I felt like we need him. Yeah, for sure.
Now, when Belichick gets hired in 91, was there a buzz in the locker room? You guys excited for it?
We were excited because we had lost 13 games the year before, but we weren't excited because our thought was he was coming from the Giants, right? And granted, they had won championships, but we also had training camp against them in 90. And we saw how they practiced and everything like that. And everything was smash mouth. And all they wanted. So our thought was, as veterans, like, he's going to come in here. He's going to try to be like Bill Parcells. We're going to practice hard. We're going to be in pads every day and things like that. And so it was like a tug of war, because he wanted to do it his way. We wanted to do it our way. And we had been winning. And even before I got there, they had been winning, doing it a different way. They hadn't won the Super Bowl like he did in New York, obviously, but the Browns had been winning. And so that was the tug of war that we were dealing with. And so it was a matter of Bill finally getting his type of players in order for the team to win. And unfortunately, some of us weren't his type of players at the time.
Well, did he elevate your game, or how did you fit into Belichick's style? I mean, I would say your best season was probably 93, and that was under Belichick. Did it have anything to do with Belichick, or was that just Eric Metcalf getting better?
I think I could say he elevated in my game, like I said earlier, that he made me a punt returner, gave me an opportunity to get the ball in that way. But at the same time, I felt like I was being held back, right? Because if you go back and look, there are a lot of games where I might have touched the ball maybe 8 times. And so you can't expect many plays if you're not touching the ball. And so, we thought, like I said, they were playing smash mouth football, coming from the Giants. It was running between the tackles, and it works. And it works for everyone, no matter what size you are. If it's blocked properly, if there are holes, anybody can run for a lot of yards, right?
Right. You got a good line, yeah. Sure.
and so we didn't have that type of line where we could go out there and just plow over people. And so with that in mind, they felt like I wasn't their type of player, and which I wasn't that type of player for that offense. And so that's when I started asking to be traded, because I didn't feel like I was going to get the opportunities that I wanted.
Okay. Now I got to ask you about the halfback option pass. Now, I know you got 1 touchdown pass in your career. How many times have you ran the halfback option? Do you remember?
We probably ran it 5 or 6. I was a smart guy with the ball. I wasn't going to throw any interceptions. So there was times where I threw it out of bounds. There were times where I just took off running. And so I threw I threw 2-point conversion also. But people that you don't ever get to see that. But I think
right.
rolling out left. I'm right-handed. I rolled out left and threw a 2-point conversion. So we ran it a few times. A lot of people don't know this as well. I actually lined up under center in Cincinnati one year.
Nice.
As a quarterback and threw a pass, and Mike Tomczak dropped it. It hit him dead in his chest. He came back and he said, "Now I see why you guys get worried out there, because that guy was right next to me. The guy was nowhere near him. He was just scared." And so I got an opportunity to throw the ball, and my percentage wasn't as good as it should have been, but that's because I throw it out of bounds to protect the ball.
Did you guys do running backs get excited when the halfback option play is called, or is that just a normal play to you guys?
I think these days, guys who can throw, they don't get excited. It's normal to them because they just know that they can do it. They've obviously probably done it in college and high school and everything else. So when you get that opportunity, you just want to throw touchdowns. And because I tell people all the time, you go back and look at this one particular year, my passer rating was over 100. Right.
Nice. Leading the league. Love it. Now, what was Belichick, you said, was kind of a more disciplinary, more of a hard-nosed coach than Bud Carson. Like, isn't it crazy though to think, like, back then you guys had Nick Saban as your D coordinator. You had two of arguably, this is arguably, you could argue this all day, but arguably the best, if not top 5 coach in NFL history and best, top 5 coach in college history on the same team. I mean, at the time, did you think any of those guys were going to do anything they did, at this point in their career, how it's transpired like that?
Well, Nick, I could say no for sure, because, he was just our defense coordinator, but so I never knew that he would go on to be a head coach on any level. Obviously that's the goal for a lot of people. So I didn't really think about Nick in that respect. Bill, I can't say that I thought he would win this many titles, but I thought he would win games. And I actually thought if they keep our team together in Cleveland, that we could have gone to the Super Bowl, but it just didn't work out. And so I could see Bill going on and being successful, just not like it happened.
Right, he just blew up. Crazy. Think about it. So there's this 1993 game against Pittsburgh. All right. So you take one punt back to the house. Right touchdown. Beautiful. Now, Mark Royals kicks the ball to you again. First off, in a million years, did you ever think you're going to get the ball kicked to you a second time in a game when you already returned one punt for a touchdown?
Yeah, that's the Steelers. And, sometimes folks have foolish pride. And they expect that they're going to be able to come down there and stop us. But at the same time, our punt return team believed that every time we stepped on the field, we could score a touchdown. And it was one of those games that was back and forth, and it was a good game. And so we had that opportunity. And Stephon Moore had already told me that we were going to get another one when we get an opportunity. And okay, sure. And so they kicked it and gave us that opportunity, and the rest is history.
Would you say that was your probably best game, or what would you say is your best game as a pro?
See, my best game as a pro to me is a game against the Oilers, and we lost the game. I don't remember, was it 90 or 91, and I say it's my best game because I had like over 100 yards receiving, close to 100 yards rushing, and a couple touchdowns. And I think that was my best game because in my mind, I felt like there would be seasons in my career where I would go 1,000. And so that's why I feel like that was my best game, because it was the closest opportunity I had to doing 100 and 100. And so that's what I look forward to my entire career. It never happens, but that's what I expected every game to be like. And so that's my best game. Obviously, the Steeler game is everyone else's
right. Oh, yeah.
favorite game, and so it's slowly inching up to being my favorite game, just because it brought so much joy to other people. Then obviously I think about the 4 touchdown game against the Raiders, which was fun. Never thought I'd score 4 touchdowns in an NFL game. I scored 1 touchdown in the game. I scored 2 touchdowns in the game. Never scored 3 touchdowns in the game, and then scored 4 touchdowns in the game. So that 4 touchdown game was fun. Then we come back the next year, and the Raiders play them again. The Raiders completely shut me out. And what happens? I score a touchdown with almost no time on the clock, which is a dream for every sports guy, whatever sport it is, because you want to hit a walk-off home run. You want to score a bucket with no time on the clock. And I got to score a touchdown with basically no time on the clock. So that was a fun game for me also.
Would you say coming up that 1993 year, I looked up your first team All-NFL kick returner and first team All-Pro punt returner, both. But you say that was maybe your best year. What would Eric Metcalf say is his best year?
I think I would say that was my best year in regards to how I felt like I would play my entire career. And that's because I had a lot of returns, went to the Pro Bowl as a returner, but then I had 700 yards rushing maybe, and caught a lot of passes also. So I think that was my best year in terms of the usage, because look, like I said, that's how I always wanted to be used. I always wanted to be on the field pretty much every play and get the ball, whether it be running the ball, catching the ball, or returning.
So 1994 comes and your contract is up, right, with the Browns. You already said earlier you were pretty much thinking about leaving at the time. Did Modell offer you anything to stay, or you were just a goner at that point?
So 94, my contract wasn't up. So 1994, I go to the Pro Bowl again as a returner. We go to the playoffs. We lose to Pittsburgh, and then they trade me.
Oh, you got traded. Okay.
I got traded. Yes, I got traded, and the way it was going in 94, I wasn't being used nearly as much as 93. And then as the season wore on, I was getting the ball 5-6 times a game, not counting returns. And so I asked to be traded. I wanted to be traded because I wanted to go somewhere I was going to be able to get opportunities. And so they had actually given me permission to work out a trade with the 49ers. And I was ecstatic. That's where I wanted to go. I wanted to be, because they're winning. I know they use their running backs differently, running the ball, receiving the ball, and then I could return it as well. And so I had been negotiating a contract with the 49ers and the trade, and then I got traded. And unfortunately, it wasn't to the 49ers. and the day before the trade, we were talking to the 49ers. So when I was told the next day I was traded, I just assumed it was to the 49ers. And then Yancey Thigpen, who was with the Steelers at the time, we were at an event down in Florida. He's like, "You just got traded to the Falcons," and I was shocked. I was like, "Wait, what happened?" So I would go and call my agent, and that's how I found out that they Falcons came in at the last minute and offered a little more than the 49ers.
Wow. Now, before that last year, 94-ish, did you get any inkling at all from Modell, locker room people, stadium people, anybody, that the Browns were potentially going to leave? Did you hear any kind of thing like that before it actually happened or broke?
No, I didn't think anything of it until I was in Atlanta when all the talk came about that it was going to happen. And, it was a sad moment, even though I wasn't there. I was still sad for the team, for the city, because the Browns need to be around, right, and need to be relevant. And so yeah, I had no idea, and once I heard it, I was shocked.
Yeah, it was. It's so crazy the way it transpired. I mean, there's still all the urban legends of what actually happened, but I mean, at the end of the day, finally, 20-some years later, we got a team who's in the playoffs. Oh geez, it's sad to think about, really.
What's crazy about it is, in hindsight, when I think about my career, if I had my choice, I'd have been a Cleveland Brown my entire career. But even if I were a Cleveland Brown, it still wouldn't have happened, because I would end up being a Raven, right?
Right. They would have moved anyways, yeah. So
I would have moved anyway, so it would have never even happened. And I could have.
So you go to Atlanta, and then you had 7 teams in 8 years, I think it was, if you count 94 and then 95, 96 with Atlanta, and then going forth on all those. did you were kind of a vagabond at that point? Was that lifestyle hard to get used to, or was it just part of the game, or how did that feel for you?
I mean, technically, I wasn't a vagabond because I got traded twice.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't like I was just going from team to team. I got traded twice, and so I guess somebody saw some value in me. They just didn't see the value for them. Right?
Right.
I got traded twice after going to the Pro Bowl. So when I got to, I got traded to Atlanta, obviously, played there 2 years, played out my contract, and then they fired Julian Jones, who had actually traded for me. And so I left as a free agent to the Chargers, went to the Pro Bowl there, and then they traded me so they could draft Ryan Leaf.
I was actually going to ask you. I got a question about that too. But out of all the 9 Cleveland teams you played for, like you said, Atlanta, San Diego, Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, Washington Football Team, and the Green Bay Packers, which of those, besides Cleveland, obviously, which was your favorite and why?
Atlanta, because I played slot, but I still got the ball a lot. I caught 104 passes and still played some running back as well and return punts and sometimes kicks. So I still got the ball a lot, and we went to the playoffs. And so and we went to the playoffs. So that was it was a fun time. I mean, we didn't take care of business, or we could have had home field advantage and maybe gone even farther, but it was a fun time. San Diego, I went to the Pro Bowl there also, but I'm probably the only person ever to say that they hate San Diego. Right? And I say that because we were 4-12. And so it's a wonderful city, but when you're losing, it makes everything terrible. Regardless of me going to the Pro Bowl and all that, I just did not enjoy it because I dreaded going to practice every day and going out there knowing that we weren't very good and we were going to lose games.
Now, who would have, as we alluded to before, you were traded, you were put in the Ryan Leaf trade. Now, who would have thought at the time that Eric Metcalf would have been the best player to come out of that Ryan Leaf trade, right?
I would have. I would have for sure. Because the one thing we can always say is you can draft people as high as you want, but they haven't done it yet.
Right.
The guys who are in the league and already gone to the Pro Bowl and sometimes get traded for, like myself, I already been to the Pro Bowl. I'd already proven that I could go out there and catch for 1,000 yards. I can run for over 600 yards. I can score a lot of touchdowns and everything. So I could see myself being the better part of that trade.
Also, I'm not sure. I might be the only person on the planet to make this connection. Maybe somebody else did. But have you ever watched the movie Draft Day?
Yes.
And not a good movie in hindsight. I'm sorry, it wasn't a good movie. But in the movie, the Browns were trading back to 1 pick. And when they were talking on the phone, they're like, throw in blah, blah, blah. It was a kick returner name. I think that was how it went down back in 98 when they were talking, the Chargers and the Cardinals were talking. They're like, give us Eric Metcalf, throw him in. And they were just, I think that was how the same thing went down in terms of the movie Draft Day. I don't know if anybody else can make that connection.
And it was actually for 1 pick. They traded to move back 1 pick. And so, I guess the Browns, I mean, not the Browns, I'm sorry, the Cardinals at the time felt like they needed a returner. And I was, like I said, straight out the Pro Bowl. And so I went there and it was cool, other than now I'm in a situation where when you start getting traded around and everything, you're a stepchild, right? Especially when the trade is not about you. Then you're a stepchild. So I get to Arizona and not being used like I want to be. And so it wasn't very fun, even though we went to the playoffs and had some good teammates and all that. But just being in that situation wasn't very, very fun. And that's when, that was towards the point where football wasn't as fun for me as it was in the beginning.
Now, when the Browns came back in 99, was there any chance that they were going to sign you to like a contract maybe to come back and, bridge the gap from the past to the present? Because I was really hoping, because I remember you were still in the league then. Was there any chance that ever transpired, or is that just me just thinking out loud?
No, I wish it would have happened. I really wish that could have happened because, like, I loved playing in Cleveland. So, when I was playing in Carolina that year, we actually played in Cleveland. And I was so excited that I was going to have the opportunity to go back and play in the stadium. And so I actually called my wife and I said, because I needed you to send me a jersey, a Browns jersey. And I got the jersey and brought it to him and I signed it. And when I came out for warm-ups, I threw it in the dog pound.
Nice.
I don't know who got it. I threw it in the dog pound because I just, like I said, I had nothing but love for playing in Cleveland and the fans.
Yeah, how sweet would it have been, man, if you guys, Bernie took that team to the Super Bowl, at '89 team or 9? Oh, God, that would have been amazing. They were so close so many times. But this year, man, it's in the cards. The Browns are going to freaking do it, man. You watch.
What's the record going to be?
Let's see. Well, you got to keep in mind it's a 17-game season this year. So I'm thinking
I have my number.
13-4 is what I'm predicting.
That's my exact number. That's my number right there. Yep.
Right out of there, and I think we'll get the division title. And I think, obviously, the ball could fall anyway. But if you watch that Chiefs playoff game last year, we were really close to winning that. And I think we match up well against Kansas City, and it's not out of the realm that we could get to that Super Bowl. And there's nobody in the AFC or NFC that really matches up well with the Browns in terms of our total package. I mean, I read an article that said we had a top 5 defense this year. We already had a top 5 offense, top 5 defense. That usually wins championships, my friend. So, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the free agency was great. I mean, we got Clowney, we got Tuck McKinley, we got safeties and corners, and then so we're loaded going into the draft. And so people are like, what do you need to draft? I'm like, we need somebody who can come in and make us better because we're pretty good right now. We just need people who can make us better, going to contribute. And so I think we did a great job in not only the free agency but the draft also. So hopefully we'll opt in to some off-season programs so they'll get the chance to go out there and add in some new wrinkles because we haven't said we're going to do it yet, and so we get some wrinkles, get everybody a chance to be around each other and expand on the offense that was pretty good and do some things with all these new defenders as well.
That Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, my gosh, what a value pick at 51, 52. Oh, that was a steal. Andrew Berry.
That's a first round pick.
Some people had top 15 and they get him in the middle of the second round, man. Andrew Berry is just, obviously we said the same thing about, Dave, the previous guy, but Dorsey, I can't remember his first name now, but Berry's just, everything he's done so far has been pretty much been a home run. The guy's a freaking genius. I love it. And he's only like 33 years old. He's like 10 years younger than me and he's out there killing it.
But it's worked out for him. He's done a great job. He's done a great job. But even though we were losing, that was setting the foundation with, a lot of these picks and a lot of these players that they were able to get. And so he comes in and he does a great job. And like I said, you can't help but be excited. And I feel sometimes like I'm like overly optimistic about what
it's weird because it's like, I can't get excited about the Tribe or the Cavs or just whatever. So it's like, I want football to get here. I don't want to get too pumped too early because it's still like 14 weeks away. But it's like, my God, come on, December.
Right. I don't care about any. I like basketball and it's the playoff time, but I don't really care right now. I saw on Twitter someone's like, which series are you looking forward to seeing the most in the NBA? And I said football season. That's what I'm. That's the series I'm looking forward to seeing. I want to see football right now because, like I said, the excitement around Cleveland and this team and what could happen is fun and it's fun.
Oh, it's gonna be beautiful. Now, do you think your dad belongs in the Hall of Fame?
I do. I think he was 3-time Pro Bowler. I think he was runner-up as Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year in the NFC. Did a lot of good things. I had the record for all-purpose yards in a season at one point in his career. So yeah, it's the hardest frat to get into in the world.
It is. Now, what about you? Do you think you deserve to be a Hall of Famer?
Hell yeah. That's even before him. I'm just gonna say it. I get it, but I don't get it. Because I listen to Ronaldo Nehemiah, who's a hurdler, and I talked to him, and he used to say, when you're the first person to do something, that says something. And I was the first person to have double figures in punt returns for touchdowns. So there was a lot of things that you could say I was the first person to do. Superlatives, I was the first person to do in the NFL. And so when you're talking about football player, I need people to stop looking at me and saying, Eric Metcalf, he's not getting in. He's a returner. No, Eric Metcalf is a football player. He was a football player. He rushed the ball, received it, and obviously returned it. And so I feel like I did enough for a lot of good things where I'm deserving of it.
Well, I mean, return yards, I mean, obviously they changed the return, but I mean, if you just take into account, punt return yards, it's such a negative awesomeness or such a positive awesomeness in terms of yards for the offense. I mean, just if you start at the 40 as opposed to the 20, because of an Eric Metcalf 20-yard kick return, that's a great bonus. And if you do that year in, year out, and you did that for, better part of 3 decades almost, I would say you should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, just look at the positivity you did towards the teams. I mean, guys like you, Devin Hester should be in there. Josh Cribbs should be in there. Maybe there's a couple other ones I forgot about, but I mean, I definitely think if closers in baseball can get in the Hall of Fame, kick returners and special teamers, specialists like that definitely should be in the Hall of Fame because there's games that are won lost because of you guys.
See, it's crazy because I hate being asked that question, but I like it at the same time because I hate it because I don't really want like talking about myself like that. But when I really think about it, I think about the fact that it should happen because even all the things I think about, I have actually won games doing things. I can say I won games in Pittsburgh game, Raiders games. I've actually won games in making plays, and so it might not ever happen, and I'll still be happy with what I accomplished in my career. Although I wish I would accomplish more, but if it does one day. I'm crazy. I would be ecstatic for sure.
Oh, yeah. Now, shouts out to my buddy Drew Burlisle. He said you were his favorite player coming up. Also, before we get to the final stuff, you have to settle a rumor, all right? And this has been going around for a while. This is like the old Tommy Hilfiger rumors back in the day. But are you related in any way?
I already knew what it was.
Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf.
I don't know that I am.
Okay.
We don't know that. I mean, he's from Mississippi. My grandfather was from Arkansas, which is right on the border of each. And so we don't know for sure. I think my dad and my aunt were talking about researching and all that, but we don't know for sure. And so I won't say no, but I won't say I am either because I don't know.
I remember when the draft came out, people were like, "Oh, that's his uncle." I'm like, I'm pretty sure if it was his uncle, it would say on the Wikipedia page. I mean, that's right. Something going up.
And it's crazy, and people are because his dad obviously is Terrence Metcalf, who played for the Bears and everything, but and it was my dad. His name is also Terrence Metcalf. They're spelled differently and everything. And so, but people were asking me so much, I had to call my dad and say, "Hey, is there something you're not telling me?" He's like, no. And I was like, I didn't think so, but I just gotta ask, right?
That's so funny. Now, what are you? You're out in California these days?
I live in Seattle. I'm home.
Seattle. Okay, back up in Seattle. So, what are you doing these days?
I do consulting with Nike Track and Field.
Okay.
And then I do a pregame, postgame show with Channel 19 in Cleveland. So. That's what I've been doing. And
nice. I love the Seattle has some stuff that I like up there. The nice dispensaries up in Seattle.
I can tell.
My first legal purchase of weed ever in my life was in 2015 up at Uncle Ike's in Seattle. I'm not sure if this.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. Okay, in the city. Yeah.
Oh yeah, love Seattle. You got anything to promote?
I'm actually about to drop my cigar line sometime later in the summer. The EM21 cigar line out from with Prohibition cigars out of Florida, and so I'm doing that. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to this because I've been looking to do this for a long time, and now it's finally coming into fruition.
Okay, I'll have to take a look because my buddies always tease me for smoking Swishers because I mean obviously I smoke weed too, but I'll smoke Swishers just. As a in between the weed thing. So maybe I'll have to take a look at your cigars and pop them out when they drop. I'm sure I'll have to get more than $1. I'm sure they're more than 2 for $1 though.
And it's funny that you say swishers because that's what actually got me started smoking cigars. And
no way. Okay.
And it wasn't because I smoked swishers when I was in college. For some, I just liked the taste of them, and so
they're really good, man. I really like the fruity taste, and it's so good.
I always had them in my mouth, and I would walk around campus and the practice facility and everything with Swisher Sweets in my mouth until one day they finally came to me and said, "Hey, we can't have you walking around with in your mouth." And I was like, "Okay, I won't do it anymore." And so when I got drafted and I started smoking cigars again. I just, and just I liked them ever since.
Oh, I do love cigars. Well, when I was in the desert, there's this guy who used to come from Abu Dhabi and he was bringing the Cubans, and I couldn't tell you the difference between. You can tell me it's a Cuban, and it could be from Honduras. I don't know. I mean, I'm a cigar amateur, so I'll have to take a look at some of that because they do have a good smoke. And man, with these swishers, I'd be coughing a lot sometimes in the morning. So how can people get hold of you?
Just the swishers.
Yeah, it might be some of the weed too. Maybe a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We'll see.
Right.
So how can people get a hold of you, Eric?
On Twitter, Eric Metcalf 21 on Twitter.
Outstanding. Well, thanks for joining us, my friend. I'm going to air this on Friday night, and I appreciate so much for coming out and spending the time to join me today.
All right, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir.